to rethink the way we do the very basic things that are our bread and butter business in HR, right? The bread and butter business is we need to make sure that according to our business needs, we attract the right talent, we engage them, and we manage them rightfully. And the attraction piece, and we already touched on this, is certainly the one that is becoming the most critical. Talent acquisition is today a domain where the technology and, as I said earlier, the availability of information on the internet has changed the game. We are shifting more and more from the traditional recruiting methods where we went either to publicizing an ad and hoping and praying that people would reply to that ad, or going to a headhunter that would, charge us a significant fee for doing basically the same. We now have to think about how do we target talent communities? How do we target the people that we know that one day we might have a job for them and they might be interested in us? So it's a totally different approach. It's no longer, I have an open job and, where's the talent? It's, there might be a job that opens in the future. I know that there is talented people out there. Where are the universities? Where are the schools? Where are the employers that have similar needs and similar competencies so that I can proactively target them and that I can make sure that the day a job is available, I've already created a connection with that candidate pool. They already know about the company. They already know what they can expect. And so the time to fill is actually decreased because a lot of pre-work has happened. Now, that doesn't happen overnight. That requires a lot of work. And that's another area where we see new jobs suddenly appear. Does any of you have a talent community manager in their teams? Not yet, right? That's the kind of investment that we will probably have to make. And here again, if we're capable of presenting a business case to our leaders, the ones that decide at the end of the day, if the dollars they spend it in HR, in finance, in IT, in procurement, in logistics, if we're capable of really demonstrating that this is going to be a competitive advantage, that there is going to be a real impact on not only the time to fill, but also the quality of the hires that we're going to make. Because as we have identified them far ahead, and we know that these people are interested in the company, the likelihood that their engagement once they're in the company is also going to be much higher. So that was a little bit about the talent acquisition challenge that we see and the need to change there. So management leadership, of course, huge impact on engagement, right? When our people tell us that they leave an organization, not that much because of the organization, but mainly because of their leader, we really need to make sure that we have prepared. I mean, when I say we, the HR organizations have prepared the leaders for the challenges of tomorrow, and that they understand what the expectations are from this new workforce that is more diverse, that is more global, and that is more mobile technology savvy as well. So we have the elements linked to, of course, more classical aspects like leadership, also the development. More and more what people tell us as well is that they want to experience something at work. It's not so much about, okay, of course, you need to pay me something. This is what we call the rational engagement. No one is going to come and work for you just because you're so cool and you're so inspiring. There needs to be also a deal there. They need to be able to pay their rent, to pay their loans. They need to know that the job that they're doing is going to help them from a career progression, that there is an advancement that is possible. That's the rational engagement. But then the emotional engagement, the one that drives the performance, the one that drives the fact that people will go the extra mile, that they're willing to do more than what is expected basically from them, from their job description, which by the way might also be a belated or outdated concept soon. that is more linked to the work environment. That is linked to what is the interaction I have with my colleagues at work? What is the flexibility that my company provides me? Am I expected to show up in the office at 9 and leave at 5? Or is there room for adapting to my need because I've been out to a client recently and I'm at this show today and I need to catch up on my email? Do I need to do that in the office? No, of course not. So how do we help the people understand that we hear them with regards to that's their expectations from a mobility flexibility standpoint, and also our HR policies and rules fit to that? Because back to the manager and leader that we were mentioning before, if we still have managers that believe that they manage the presence of their employees in the office and not the performance that is happening anywhere, anytime, then we have a strong disconnect. And here you can be pretty sure that's not going to go very well for a very long time with that employee and that leader if there is such a disconnect between the expectations. So here again, for HR, it's not, of course, solely on our shoulders, but it's about providing the business the insights, the knowledge, the understanding of what can change and what has to change if we don't want to risk a disconnect between the expectations of the employees and what the company can provide. So we spoke about rational, we spoke about emotional, we spoke about the differences in expectations with regards to what drives the engagement. What is really worrying is this figure up there. This is according to a Gallup research worldwide that only 13% of associates are engaged, really engaged. And there is another figure that is even more worrying, that is like only 50% of the people who work in a company would recommend their company as a great place to work for their friends and network. So when you think about, again, the power of social media, when you think about the fact that the Facebook connections, the LinkedIn connections, the Twitters, all these things are hanging up together, and you have people in your company who are not engaged and who would not recommend your place, you're wasting a huge opportunity of tapping into this talent market through those people. Because who would be a better ambassador than someone who's really living it live, that you would not even have to pay for that? So this connection between the engagement of people, that is of course linked also to the fact that we care for our associates. We want to make sure that they're doing well. There's definitely the moral value of making sure that people are doing well in a work setting or a work environment. But there's also clearly the business evidence that engaged people are more performing and that more performance is good for the business. So this whole connection, I think, has to be translated more from the soft element that we tend to have in HR to some hard dollars as well. And here again, if we have the right data that help us analyze, for instance, what the exit interviews showed, what the people are saying in our engagement surveys. Oh, by the way, engagement surveys, annual engagement surveys, like the classical type of things where you reply to the same 52 questions year over year. No, seriously, millennials, they might answer them, but they don't take that as serious stuff. They want to see a different form of how do you capture my perception? How do you capture my way of thinking, So we have to think also about a different way of approaching this permanent feedback loop. When we are having our mobiles and we are basically checking on a totally immediate way what our Facebook friends say about something or what we see on Twitter or LinkedIn on something, how can we accept that in our companies we have a different pace? That here once a year we are asked what we think. So here as well, the technology will help finding different apps, probably mobile apps, because I think that today this is really the magical word or the magical tool to allow employees to give real-time feedback immediately after a meeting, after an interaction. How was that? The quality of the interaction. How was that meeting? At ADP, we are developing a pilot with that is meant to measure the quality of the meeting and the quality of interaction, and also a form of I don't want to call it 360 because it's much broader than this classical 360 approach, but the idea is really to see how we monitor that. The risk, though, and there is always, not everything is perfect, is to make sure that we are capable of also managing the tool and that the tool doesn't become a threat. Because imagine someone steps out of a meeting and says to someone else, that meeting was really not that great, and do you think like me? And is starting to create a kind of negative spiral. And at the end of the day, you have a leader or manager who is super exposed to that. So what are the mechanisms? What are the kind of security caps that we build in as well to make sure that this stays objective, that this stays professional, and that we don't have the risk that we run into another problem that becomes, the negative swirl that could happen around this immediate interaction.